Hey everyone, I'm Chris Dennison from Dirt Rider. Joining me is Dirt Rider Senior Editor Adam Booth, and that handsome fellow over there is Chris Kiefer, Associate Editor. So today we're chatting about the 2013 RM-Z250F. So Suzuki's got a pretty good 250F. I'm excited to talk about this thing because there's a lot of riders who pegged it as their first bike. Some guys picked it maybe in the third, fourth place range. It's kind of all over, so there's a lot of good talking points. Starting out, got some changes for the new year. Steel engine mounts made it a little bit more rigid. Also saw the same 1mm increase in the fork that the Kawasaki got, so it's a 48mm. Separate function fork, kind of a fun feature. Kiefer, why don't you give us your overall opinion of 2013?
Just breezing over it, I thought one of the best motors too of the bunch. Rated it probably second in the motor department. Great bottom to mid pull, real snappy, real exciting motor feeling, like just rolling around, it's just really exciting. Maybe cut off a little bit too much on over rev, maybe could have pulled a little bit better on third gear, down straightaways, but really good bottom mid. Chassis maybe feels a little bit too rigid for me. Up front fork transition for me is harsh. So is it the frame, is it the fork? That's a tough one for me to pick, but just overall, little stuff on the fork was really harsh feeling. Shock was alright, maybe a little bit soft on the in-stroke, but pretty balanced in the rear. I had to change my sag quite a bit just to compensate for the fork. But overall, the bike's really fun, I like it a lot.
Yeah, and I disagree with you a little bit as far as it's not my second or even first best motor. I think it's probably in the third, fourth range for me, just because it does fall off pretty hard on top, harder than the Kawasaki falls off. But definitely there's some adjustability in the fork. You can tweak the preload, and that certainly helps it. A little bit stink bug of a stock attitude, but Boothie, we spent some time tuning the clickers. I mean, what are your thoughts on the Suzuki, the handling, clickers, and just how you got the suspension tuned?
For me, the Suzuki's one of the top bikes in the whole shootout from my perspective, because the ability for that thing to corner in flat ruts, it's amazing in the corners. So I'll give up a little bit of harshness coming into the corner, a little bit of that spike in the grips, and just because I can simply go where I want. I can dive real far inside. You don't turn the handlebars to turn that bike. You almost just think about where you're going and relax your arms, and it just carves. And if you overthink that thing and try to turn it, it actually ends up knifing under you a lot, and you're fighting it in a sweeper or something, because it doesn't need a lot of input from the rider to do the proper things in the corner. The motor, because I'm not as fast as Kiefer or a pro level guy, the over rev doesn't hurt me as much, because I don't let it ride out to that point. I'll short shift it, and it's so much snap and response off the mid and the bottom that the good cornering with that snappiness, you can ride a gear taller than some of the other 250Fs and just let that motor work the bottom end out of the corner and get going, and then just short shift it. A high rever guy who wants to just let the thing and land and go isn't gonna like the Suzuki motor as a Cowie or a Honda, but a guy who wants to really put the power to the ground, I love that motor.
To elaborate on power to the ground, it's a good point. That's what really good the Suzuki does. The throttle feels connected to the rear wheel, and that's a huge trait that I look for in a bike. Is you always, no matter where the throttle is, the bike feels connected. And when we do our tests, we have a little box that we rate, RPM response, mid RPM response. So if we're in the mid range and that reaction to our throttle hand, it's immediate. There's no loose feeling, it's just immediate from my throttle to the rear wheel. It hooks up no matter where I'm bottom, mid. It's good.
Yeah, do you agree with Kiefer? It's a pretty exciting bike down low.
It's out of the 250Fs, it's probably the most, I guess you'd say, carbureted feeling. For an EFI bike. It's jumpy, it goes, and that kind of response on a big 450 would be almost too much, but on a 250F, that's the goal, is to make those things snappy and exciting.
Kind of loads up and then goes. Yeah,
you go, and for a bike like a 250F to be kind of just slow revving and not exciting, that takes it out of a 250F. The goal of a 250F is to make the thing aggressive and explode and go, because they aren't huge power.
Yeah, absolutely. And it took me about 5-6 laps to kind of adapt to the Suzuki, get comfortable. And then from that point, even first day of testing on the first track, I'm thinking, man, I could totally race one of these things for the year. You think about the performance of it, just stock, leave the aftermarket aside for a bit, it's a pretty good stock bike. And good components. I really like the aluminum tank. I just think that's pretty trick.
Yeah, that's cool.
we don't care too much about the looks of the thing. Performance obviously is more important, but we do have to talk about the plastic. We had a lot of test riders comment not so fond of the yellow front number plate and also the two-tone fenders. Kiefer, you like that style?
No, I like a solid colored bike. It just looks cleaner. I'm more of a clean kind of looking guy, and everything that I have is just pretty basic and just clean looking, and mixing and matching plastic doesn't do it for me.
It's a strange thing to have a yellow number plate, because if you show up to your local race and you don't want to buy pre-printed backgrounds, you're going to put a white number on the yellow background, and then you're going to put I don't know, it just doesn't make
Duct
much
tape.
sense.
Oh, it's a freestyle bike.
Yeah, right.
Pretty cool.
Put your sponsor's logo on there.
So stock bars, pretty polar. We had guys really split. Some test riders hate the Renthals. Some guys are okay with that, Ben. Where do you sit?
I like it. It feels pretty neutral to me, and the ergonomics of the bike's pretty neutral, and I have no problem with that at all.
Doesn't feel a little small to you, maybe?
It's a little bit small, but I don't mind a little bit smaller feeling of a bike because it actually helps my cornering.
Okay.
If I get too stretched out, I can't corner very good.
Right. I'm not a tall guy, and the thing fits me perfect.
Yeah, it is a good fit for me. I'm 5'10", and I feel like there's a good spot you can lock your knees into, really settle in on the bike when you're charging.
Yeah, and I'm 6 foot almost, so
Yeah, makes sense. But the last thing is 2013 Suzuki threw an all-new transmission, a lot of revisions on the bike. Still with the shifting, I feel like you have to be pretty deliberate, like really use the clutch, jam it into gear, make sure it's settled in gear. It's not like the Honda you think about shifting, and you're in the next gear. Did you guys feel that at all?
I really had no problem with the transmission. I mean, it might be a little bit more work to get in for a positive feeling, but I'm pretty good with my shifting, and I really had no complaints actually.
And you're good with the clutch? Would you put a hydraulic clutch on it if you could?
Oh, yeah, of course. I put on hydraulic clutch and everything.
Yeah.
I could.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I like the feeling of a cable.
Yeah, it's got good feeling. It's not too vague. Although, since we referenced the KTM, electric start is so sweet. I would take it on all the bikes.
Yeah. And going back to Suzuki, has changed a lot over the years. I think it's the most underrated manufacturer. We know they had their problems with other areas in their company, but the bike doesn't show it. The bike has come a long way, both bikes, and I love the Suzukis this year.
Yeah, I'm a fan too, and I think overall the opinion among our test riders, pretty positive of the thing. It's a good bike, and fortunately we get to hang onto it throughout the year, and we can try some different mods and play with it, see if we can up the performance. The jetting of the thing too, even though it's a fuel-injected bike, seemed like it was a little bit lean stock, so that's something, the couplers, I know Kiefer, you tried some of those to make it richer.
Yeah, we tried some rich settings and it really didn't work either, so the lean setting was pretty good in some tracks that we went to, but the standard coupler pretty much fits everywhere we go.
Yeah, well, we'll keep playing with the bike. In the meantime, you can go to dirtrider.com for more on the Suzuki. Also check out the March 2013 issue of the magazine. We got the full 250F Shootout in there. And stay tuned, our Facebook page, facebook.com/dirtridermag. We've got a ton of breaking news up there too, as well as links to all the 450 videos for the 2013s. We're just sitting here talking about dirt bikes.
Fun times.
It is good. Thanks for checking it out. We'll see you guys at the track. Or the trails if you don't go to the track.
Yeah.
Or the porta potty if you just maybe ate a burrito.